Hello, my name is Sean Morrison. Welcome to Week 2's Opinion Piece podcast. Today I'm going to be answering the question, are there any technological expansions or game design features from the 70s or 80s that have any redeeming value to games in the current or even future generations? One of the first things that caught me in reading the chapter 11 was the description of Centipede, and I've read this in a few other books as well. The game balance that's brought out in Centipede is really kind of the cornerstone of that game, and good gameplay and good game balance is still a cornerstone of any game today. And I think that really started to become exemplified in games starting with Centipede and moving forward. Every action had a reaction. If you destroyed a mushroom, there was a way for the mushrooms to come back. And then again, if there was a way for the game to put mushrooms there was a way for it to take them out as well. So that there was a perfect balance. A good example of this is as the centipede moves down the screen, it starts to move faster and faster. So when it's farther away from you, it's hard to shoot and hard to hit, because it's a long ways away, but it's slow moving, so there's the balance there. As it moves down, it starts to move faster. It gets closer to you, so it's easier to line up a shot because it's close, but it's moving away from your initial shot, so you're not going to be able to get the exact segment that you wanted necessarily. Outside of that, the next thing that comes up in the reading is the beginnings of 3D games or vector graphic games. That would be exemplified by Tempest, which used the color vector graphics programming. This was a game that allowed players to circle around the outside of a hole and shoot monsters, quote unquote, as they came up out of the hole. This, again, would be a huge game design leap forward as games move forward into the current systems and current era. Anything that's made now is almost completely done in 3D. So that can really trace its lineage back to games like Tempest. Another advancement that we see during the 1980s, and something that we still see today, is the idea of making modifications to existing games, either by professional companies or by hobbyists. And this started, a good example of this anyway, was started by Doug McRae and Kevin Curran with their PAL boards, as they modified their own, the consoles that they owned and were distributing, Missile Command. They had altered that to become Super Missile Command, where the gameplay was a little bit faster. They changed some color schemes and things like that so that it would freshen up the gameplay and get more people back into the arcade so that they would keep spending money. Their biggest modification, though, came in Miss Pac-Man, which became one of the largest selling arcade games in U.S. history. This was a little bit of a step beyond just a pure modification, in that that's how it originally started, but the Namco actually picked up the McRae and Curran and hired them as programmers and allowed them to modify the game there, and they were actually able to make a regular game out of it. But when it was all said and done, it was still using a modification board that they laid on top of the old Pac-Man and just changed some of the graphics around and changed some of the items around so that it would come out looking new. Finally, another example of something that's around today that was kind of innovated back then would have been Ralph Baer's camera peripheral. It's not something that was picked up or widely used in the 1980s, but it is something that's obviously with Microsoft's camera tool, PlayStation 3's camera tool, and then the upcoming Kinect. Cameras are most definitely used widely in the current video game market, and Ralph kind of had the first idea of that, and that was to hook a camera on top of the pinball machines and different arcade machines and take pictures of people as they came up and as they got high scores and that sort of thing. And so you can see a lot of those same social interactions today, and I think that was a way ahead of its time. You just didn't see actual digital faces and images in games up until that point. And so going forward, that was a pretty big leap that we've obviously carried forward to today. Well, that is a brief look at the kinds of technology that were available in the 1980s and the kind of innovations that they made in game design that have carried forward to today. Thank you again for listening.